Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science and spirituality are telling us that we're all connected, that we're all one. What you do to another person, you are literally doing to another aspect of yourself. And when mankind awakens to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is Here Now Satsang with Canela Michelle Meyers. Canela is the author of Right Here, Right Now Meditations. I'd like for us to give a great welcome to Canela to Awake to Oneness Radio. Welcome to the show, Canela.
Thank you, Caroline.
So, how are you
and
today?
And welcome to everybody. Wonderful, actually.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. So, please, I'd like for you to share, because I honestly myself don't know too much about your background. I just know that you're focusing your meditation and your work in the here and now, and I'm all about the here and now. So can you please share with our listeners and with me your journey of awakening to this truth?
Okay. Well, I mean, it's a multifaceted journey, as it is with every single person who has ever come into the realized awakeness. And once that occurs, once awareness becomes aware of its own self, all the moments that preceded that moment show that that was inevitable and it was going to happen that way. And there seemed to be all these different spots that were quite stronger steps, if you will. They made a big difference. And for me, the main part that really kick-started me even looking at life differently from the way that most of the collective of humanity still looked at it, as if the white picket fence, you find your partner, you have kids, you get a good job, lots of money, you retire, you grandparents perhaps, and then eventually die. But as if it's about how the life looks and to get things, to accrue or, right?
Right.
So I was living in that way. And then I had children. I had my first son in 1990, and my second son came in March 1992. They're only 16 months apart.
Okay.
And the part that shook me to looking at life quite differently is that I recognized when my first son was born that he was born innocent and whole. It was just so obvious the moment I met him on the outside of my body. And so that sort of shook me, but I didn't really understand it so much until my second son was born. And again, he was born innocent and whole, completely obviously innocent and whole, and unique from my first son. And it didn't have to be, it didn't seem related to sex or anything. It just was, that they were both boys.
Right.
It was related to something bigger than that, like just a kind of a flavor or essence of who they were, and they were already that. They were already unique without learning anything, right? So, or what my idea of learning something was at that time. So that sort of became in my face that I looked at, well, what happened to me? Not only one boy, but then the next one coming through And somehow I recognized we're all born that way. We're all born innocent and whole and unique.
Yes,
and it was
so
just
true.
so completely true that I did not feel innocent, whole, or unique. And so my journey became one of attempting to figure out what happened to me. Why did I not feel innocent? I must have come in that way. Where is that innocence, wholeness, and uniqueness?
Right. It's so coincidental, but we know there are no coincidences. I was just talking to my daughter yesterday. She just recently had a birthday. She just turned 36 on the 26th of October. But I was talking to her just yesterday morning about her and her sibling, my son, who they are 4 years apart. But they were so they were, like you said, they're born just innocent, beautiful, innocent joys. But they were so different. I had two children, just like you. They were a little bit further apart in age, but they were opposites. They were so different. They were so uniquely themselves at birth.
Yes. And you recognize that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just had that conversation with my daughter yesterday. So that is just, So, yes, please continue. So after your sons were born.
So what I would like to do, though, is because we have these listeners, these people listening on the line right now, from wherever they are listening. I don't know if some of the friends in Europe and are here too, or eventually people will be listening to this from all over the world.
Exactly.
And so I'd like to invite that this is recorded. So those people who are listening can really relax and let go of any attempt to try to understand or follow or get anything about this time that we're spending together, to see if there can be just a relaxing, open, and receiving the sound of our voices in this conversation, and to really let the mind just go kind of soft, because it doesn't need to be on. You're receiving and hearing what's going on exactly where you are, and we all have been all the way along, and we've been taught to put our attention outside of ourselves. So all I'm inviting is that there's a relaxing into where you actually are, and listening is happening without you doing anything. And so is understanding, right? So it's sort of like just an inviting and settling in to being together for these moments that we're sharing. And funnily enough, I mean, the moments that we're sharing even far beyond what looks like today, because this is a recorded interview.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, that's
what I love
so beautiful
about internet.
To mix up the mind, right?
Yes, I love it. Always the now, and wherever. And these shows are always going to be available for whenever, so it will always be that now moment when that person discovers this recording. So this is amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's always available to recognize that listening is already happening where you are. We don't have to try for it. All that, I mean, I'm sure, and it was normal. It's not wrong that it happened that way. That's not what I'm saying. That, hey, listen to me, right? And then we were taught to listen to them and really give them our attention and, look like we were listening. All of that, when listening is an effortless happening if you can hear.
Exactly.
And,
exactly. Now, but before we get into that, I want you to share more. Tell us more about your after you had your sons. What experience you went through.
Well, I went through amazing layers and all these different angles of basically the universe changed, because I realized that I was whole and unique at some, I was innocent as well at some place that I wanted to find, and so that my direction changed towards that. And then also in having children, I mean, there was ways that parents were with kids and in teaching them where physical violence, who might be part of the teaching, as if that helps a child to remember what they're supposed to remember. And that was part, and it was normal for most the generation of my parents. I don't hold that against them. It's what they understood was the right thing to do. But I couldn't do that because these two boys were innocent, and they just blatantly showed up as pure innocence. And so there was when this anger would rise in me that would want to lash out, I couldn't. I just couldn't. And so it started building up inside of me until I started getting really concerned and started asking for help because I was afraid of hurting my children. Because these energies were building up because I wasn't releasing them. But I didn't understand, any of all this. All I knew is I couldn't take it there. And so I went to a seminar called Come Alive, and through that started to understand the emotions and energies and learning how to be with energy responsibly, giving myself space to take these rage and stuff and unfurl them just maybe on my futon and let my family know, hold on, these energies are up, I'm going to excuse myself and let them unfold through me instead of trying to hold on to them, because I could see that holding on to them wasn't working. So this is over a number of years, the processes of allowing yourself to settle in with what is actually here. Now, I hadn't heard about awakening, and yet I was awakening to myself. But I didn't know that till after. Okay. I was awakening to what is because I was being with whatever was ready to be met, and in the best way I could without really knowing how, because there's only one me, and these energies that are showing up, there was just me. I realized also that there was no book on parenting, really, that could tell me what to do in the moment, because the scenarios that would happen with my kids were always unique for the moment and where we were and what was all happening. And so I just needed to respond. Right? So there wasn't a way that I could be some sort of perfect parent because I would never know what was going to happen next. Right. And that's true for everybody.
So shortly after you had your sons, you had this anger building up inside of you, and you did was there any particular something going on that was causing this, or was this just?
It was a pattern from my childhood and how anger was released toward me as a child, right? And it looked like I was doing something wrong that would elicit this unfurling of these energies towards me. And yet, right, so however it was that my parents thought that I was being bad or wrong and deserved that, I couldn't do the same thing because I could see they were innocent.
Right.
And so it was just sort of how it all showed up. And and so I started to learn. It was a learning process on how to, and my parents helped me with that because I approached them on that, and they supported me to take courses and classes and learning how to be with these energies and meet them in an appropriate way. And there's just vast learning in that process of allowing ourselves to be with these energies. And so the whole system started to become lighter because I was no longer holding on to so much stuff. And if I let go of, whatever, if it was anger, there would be other energies underneath. It was like there was layers and layers in any given moment. And that's true of all of us. I mean, I'm sure there isn't one person that's online right now listening to this that doesn't find the same thing.
Right.
Right?
It's so true. So true. Yeah. It's like I said, so many things, because we know there are no coincidences. I just received this quote in the email today, and I must read it. It's a a Jeff Foster quote, but it's exactly what you just said. It says, stop trying to heal yourself, fix yourself, even awaken yourself. Let go of letting go. Stop trying to fast forward the movie of your life. It's getting so exhausting. Don't do it anymore. Stop trying. Chasing future. Stop trying to chase the future that never seems to arrive. Living on secondhand promises. Instead, bow deeply to yourself as you are, exactly as you are. Be here. Honor the present scene in the movie. Your pain, your sorrow, your doubts, your deepest longings, your fearful thoughts are not mistakes. They aren't asking to be healed. They are just asking to be held. Here, now, lightly in the loving arms of your present awareness. I just got this today. I was like, that is exactly what you're saying. You just need
Sort of.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a difference because I would say even the trying's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we didn't start the trying. We just learned it, and most people are doing that, and so it happens.
Right.
So to say stop the trying is, we didn't start the trying, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what
right.
we can do is find out that it's happening, and remember, and that's what I think you're saying is what I was pointing to,
mm-hmm.
that right now as people are listening to this, that they can recognize that they don't need to try to understand this. It's
mm-hmm.
recorded. So
exactly.
They're not going to miss out on anything. They can come back and revisit it later. And there is an incredible amount of energy right now that's available through this. Mm-hmm. And I would invite people to open to that, to this caring, compassionate, loving energy that's present
mm-hmm.
right here in the moment, that's always holding us unconditionally right here, right now. And it just is inviting us to relax, open, and mm-hmm. let it hold us. Just as we are, inclusive of trying or not trying, mm-hmm. or searching or not searching. So the part that happened next was through these workshops in different ways that I was learning on how to, I didn't really know it at the time, but I was learning mastery over the energies and myself. Whatever arose and finding myself able to meet those energies. But, it took some learning on how to do that. And the side effect was very healing
mm-hmm.
To this system, this energetic system that I am. But eventually, I noticed all these people were leaving, who I took workshops with, who I found very supportive and sort of in alignment with me, who I was attracted to. They were mm-hmm. all kind of disappearing and going traveling off with this dude. And so I went to an evening of his introductory, a 2-hour meeting, and I got his book. It's Paul Lowe's book, The Experiment is Over. And later I was reading that book, and in it he said, the experiment is over, wake up. You can wake up now.
Hmm.
And so I'd kind of okay, so this is the first I'm hearing about this waking up stuff, because I never even fathomed that waking up was for anybody. I knew Buddha and Jesus and,
right.
that was for those sorts of people, not the rest of us. It just never, ever occurred to me, this whole, right? So
right.
I didn't come from any kind of, like I say, just I came from a mundane style of living life out. And so I read that, and I could feel in me that something was really true about that. And so I decided to try it out. Mm-hmm. I said to myself, okay, wake up. And I kind of felt into it, and I looked at it, and I realized nothing happened. something happened, So, but the curious thing was is that I knew that it hadn't happened. And I still don't know how I knew that it hadn't happened until it actually happened. And then, everybody knows when it happens. And everybody knows when it's not happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that, right? Mm-hmm. So that's when this whole concept of waking up started. And even in the book, it was more or less similar to my looking and supporting myself to my own innocence and wholeness. And it's not really my own because there's no separation. It really is an act for all of us to be willing to meet our own innocence, to meet who we are in each moment, and be willing to be with that,
True.
Straight up, straight on. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, of course, we already are that, but we're just a little sidetracked until we're not, is all.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just being aware of it in the now moment. Like you said, we all know when that awakening actually does happen. Even, I'm not sure if I was familiar with the term of waking up, but I know when I did wake up to the truth of oneness because something happened inside that said, yeah, this is it. This is the missing piece for me. Understanding the truth of oneness just made everything clear, and things like, was struggling with before, metaphysically, spiritually, just everything made sense to me when I understood and I keep saying at a heartfelt level, not an intellectual level, but when I felt it at a heartfelt level, everything made sense to me when I understood the truth of oneness, that we're all connected, we're all one with God. We can never be separated from God. And that also made living life so much easier for me because I had no more fear. Like, there's nothing to fear. I cannot be separated from God. And I'm on unique aspects of God. And so the best thing for me to do is just try to stay in alignment with my higher self and move with the flow of what is.
Yeah. I call that being responsible, being able to respond to what is.
Yes.
Responsible.
Yes.
And, and that it doesn't mean that people who may still believe in the distractions are not responsible. They're still responding to what is. It's just they're not as aware of the actual reality of what's going on in the moment.
Exactly.
It'll be sort of layered with all these other happenings that appear to be true or, a dilemma of some kind, a problem.
It's so interesting you should bring that up because I think I mentioned to you before we started this show that this afternoon I was at a hospice where a friend of mine has been for 10 days, and I met her close to 20 years ago at church when I was active at church. And there was a room full of, her mother was there, and her husband was just coming in as I was coming in. So I walked in with him. And then within a half hour, the room was filled with people that I knew from church from many, many years ago. I hadn't seen them for many years, and we were like all hugging and like glad to see each other. But the room was filled with pastors and pastors' wives and all these people that are still very connected to the church, and I'm not, and I think they know. I know, well, the lady that's in hospice, I know her husband. He's more metaphysically minded, and I talked to him about, my awakening. I can share it with him, and he understands, and he knows about my radio show and all that. But the other people in the room, they were all having conversations about, of course, the election and all these different things there. And I was just very quiet because I just said I need to because I didn't feel like there would be anything I could say that would really resonate with them other than Michael, or didn't mean to say with names, but other than the husband, who he and I, we talk all the time about spiritual matters, and he and I are on the same page. But the other people in the room, I didn't feel like I could have that conversation with them, because not in a judgmental way. I just said, let me just listen and be still and absorb, and I kind of almost was saying, like, let me just take this in like a movie, you know. So
yeah, and sometimes I even add a little thing to consciousness and say, if I'm to share something, invite me. And I say that to consciousness. So then a space will appear if I'm to share my viewpoint on something.
Right.
Because I think, and I found that because there was an old way where I used to want to try to be included, to try to include my opinion, to participate in some way, to belong. And, there's so much anxiety around that. And it's so much easier to wait for the space and just relax until the space comes and let God basically do it for you. If it's meant to be, and if it's not, you're still aware of what's going on, and that's already so much, to just receive people and what they're like, just what you're saying, just to receive them exactly as they are, and listen to what is, without calling it anything, because it's already its own self.
Exactly. Yes. So I do that. If there, whenever I am in a setting like that, and if there is like an opening, I kind of, I listen very carefully, and I, to see if there is an opening. But this afternoon there just wasn't an opening, so I just said, let me just kind of, and I was very attentive to what they were saying, but just I didn't see an opening to share my views.
Yeah, and yet you're there, right? Having and the views come and appear, and right, and it's. I mean, that's the part too about awakening that so many people kind of misunderstand, is that it's not that thoughts or what we call the mind, which is basically just an open, empty space that hears thoughts.
Right.
I mean, it's connected somehow to the brain tissue, but we know that that the thoughts don't actually appear in the brain tissue, or, like the felt sense of our fingertips might touch, like a finger and a thumb.
Right.
You can feel a finger and a thumb, and there's a felt sense of touch there. We can't find a place where thoughts are received or heard. And we never started them to happen. So any idea of getting rid of thoughts or getting rid of the mind is, it's a wonderful exercise to find out that you won't be able to.
Right.
Which is everything, right? It's the same as seeking. It's not to stop anything. It's like just to go with it. We didn't put the ideas. Like I read that book. It said wake up, and then I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? And tried it on. That wasn't it. So then I thought, okay, well, I could see that there were other people that were looking for this. So I would just go where I felt called to go and arrange things, And so when it actually happened, I was so surprised because I wasn't expecting it. Because the bit that I had read about it sort of seemed to imply it was a long journey, like that it was going to take me 30 years, at least.
Right.
Right? Because then I just found out about this stuff. I mean, what the heck?
Right.
And it's like going like, wait a second, I had my life planned. I was going to be going for this consciousness thing. And then it just disappeared, it just totally disappeared. And so the disappearing point was in Satsang with Isaac Shapiro, and I didn't know him. I don't know of his teaching so much. I have one of his books, but I didn't know his style of, I'd been to one Satsang the day before. I was there because I didn't understand what Satsang meant. And so,
well, I don't. So can you fill me and the listeners in?
Okay,
I hear
Satsang, it turns out, right, is two Sanskrit words, Sat and Sang. Sat means the truth, And Sang is sharing that truth.
Okay.
So, but I didn't know. I mean, nobody gave me that definition at the time. They just said, oh, there's this fellow Isaac and he's offering Satsang. And nobody could describe to me who was going to go or interested or told me about it in any way that I could understand. They just didn't make any sense. So I kind of gave up trying to make sense of it and just said, oh, I'll go to the thing. And then through a series of events, ended up finding myself, like I think it was a couple of days later, just being in a week-long retreat with Isaac. And on the first gathering that evening, I just asked him the question, is it beyond perception? And he said yes, and in that moment, I was beyond perception. Or not that I was, awareness was already there, but I connected with that, and then everything disappeared. Absolutely everything disappeared, and yet everything was also still there, but it had no felt sense. It had nothing. It was just emptiness. It was just silence. So there was still sound, and there was still a person. There was floor. And that's the same as now. Like right now, wherever people are sitting, there's all this that looks like some sort of fabric of something that appears here in this moment. But we know that it's just energy appearing like it's a solid thing, that it's not solid. We know that from science.
Yes.
So, what a wonder that, like right now, I can touch this laptop that I'm speaking to you, through, and that I can touch it. My fingers don't go right through, and then there are fingers, and then there's the felt sense of the fingers, and it's just incredible, right? And it's right here, and all those other distractions are just distractions that gradually each person in their own way will relax into what's happening where they already are. And their own journey of letting go of those distractions has to happen because that's their way. They are their unique expression of consciousness, just as they are. So there's no way around that. True.
So true. I'll never forget. It's about the only thing I remember from elementary school. 7th grade science class. 7th grade science class when we were studying molecules and atoms, and my 7th grade science teacher said, "Nothing is truly solid." I cannot forget when he said that, and I'm like, huh? But it's like my soul grabbed onto that, that truth. It's like, okay, now they're actually teaching. My soul was saying, now you're actually learning truth in school. When my science teacher said that, and I never forgot it. So it was like something that really, that was, I guess, maybe the start of my awakening. When my science teacher
well, that's
said,
what I mean by, how do you take all these steps that happen that in the moment they were significant, but you don't really know how they play out or how they're significant so much until the whole of it finds itself, right? And I still find that. I still find really significant happenings that happened, but I still didn't know the gem of it because of expansion. Everything, my whole life, every moment that's ever been experienced continues to expand and show itself in its new facets of whatever shows up.
Exactly.
So there's these, multitude. The gifts keep on giving. The moment is such an incredible viewpoint of all of it.
And that's why I feel like nothing in my life that's happened in my life is something to feel regret about, because all the moments in my life brought me to where I am now. They had to happen to get me here, so it's like nothing to feel regretful about. I don't know.
Regret is present, right? Because sometimes regret is an actual energy to that, and then what a wonderful opportunity to sit down and feel, what does regret feel like? Right? There isn't a human that doesn't experience regret at some time. It's not so bad as it's made out to be. when you sit right down with it and realize,
right.
because like you say, you can use your intelligence to know, well, that's kind of funny that regret would show up, because you know that all those moments unfurled into this moment.
Right.
It's part of this moment. So they had to happen how they happened. And yet there might be a feeling of regret still, and so then it's a curious thing. You know, and it's the same thing as seeing that my sons were innocent, and recognizing that they were, you know, I had it intellectually, that I could see they were innocent, that there was a truth there, but yet the other truth was I didn't feel innocent. Until I do, and that kind of comes and goes. Nothing stays. I mean, what you were talking about in the science, the molecules and the atoms and nucleus, and how the electrons whiz around the nucleus, and just that edge that they whiz to creates an appearance of an edge. And we call that, you know, the atom. And wonderfully, you know, the atoms of our skin are right fitting in with the atoms of the air, and the atoms of the tissue under the surface of the skin, and the hairs or whatever on our hand, and the blood, and then the bone. You know, all of them are fit one into the other, and all the way, all of these atoms, their edgelessness, are fitting all the way to where you are in the East Coast, right? And here I am on the West Coast. I mean, there can't be separation. We can't separate. It's impossible.
Right, because there's no place where I end and you begin.
Yeah, we can look at it just like that. The atoms of the air are here, right? All the way through water, the earth, whatever. Everything's fit into this oneness of itself. And so that's your whole invitation, awake to oneness.
Right, and it's so true what you said about whatever arises in your now moment, whether it be regret, whether it be sadness, whether it be anger, whatever that emotion, whatever is happening, whatever arises is
and
okay.
That actually brings me to another little bit that I wanted to talk about, because, you know, what I've found is really supportive for people like, you know, I've worked with thousands of people now energetically, right? And we've been looking at, well, what does that mean, energy, right? And we talked about the atoms there and stuff. But when you're talking about the emotions of regret or loss or anger, but at their base, they're still just energy. The energy of anger showing up. We can recognize it. The mind is handy because it goes, oh, anger. It knows what anger is. Everybody knows what anger is. And, and then it's wonderful to recognize it as the energy of anger, because then you can let go of that label, anger. It's so much easier to be with it as energy, because energy is a neutral word.
Exactly.
Right? Because the word anger or regret or the things we're not supposed to feel that we all do, those all have a collective bias to the words, right? Where we're not allowed to be. Even though we're not allowed, and so we try to push those away. So it's much harder to open to those energies if they're called these bad guys.
Right, exactly.
You know, like the ego. You know, there's no ego. Nobody has one.
I always say the ego has I never put a bad label on the ego. I always say the ego has its purpose and its place. It's just we want to try not to let it
bad.
We want to try not to let it rule our lives, but it has its place.
Well, but it doesn't have a place. When you look here, is there really an ego? Can anybody? I've asked thousands of people, okay, show me an ego. And all they do is they pick a bunch of pieces of other moments and put them together and say, this is what it is. And I say, but that's not here. That's not here.
Right.
And it's handy to put all those pieces together so you can sort of get a bit of the game of the humanness that appears here, right? It's handy, but it's not actually any kind of thing that
Right.
You
I
know,
hear what you're saying.
and that's what I mean by you know, when happenings are encapsulated by a word, and then it really is strong in the collective that we get rid of the ego, you know, because that's been a culprit. And I understand what you're saying, that you've been, you know, you understand it to a point where it's not really in the way for you.
Right. Yeah.
And that's right.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, what
I
I'm saying, everything in existence has a purpose and a place. So by not labeling it something negative, so I don't label it something negative, just like you were talking about those emotions that we quote unquote like to label negative, like sadness and anger and regret and all of that.
That's how we found them, but we need that in order to find them. That's all I'm saying. Is it, you know, because it is real. You know, I what was happening? Something was happening, you know, like the technology when it's not working out right. I mean, definitely there are times when anger shows up. I can say I'm angry.
Well, it happens to me when I'm driving, and oh my goodness, it was just the other night. I was driving, and I'm on the highway, and it's raining, and a big not Mack truck, but a big pickup truck. Like twice, I'm driving a Jeep, which is I think is big enough, but a huge pickup truck. It's like he had to see me because I'm slightly ahead of him, but he's coming into my lane, into me. Like, okay, so the only way he can be where I'm at is I have to move. Oh, you know, I had to go almost onto the shoulder where he wouldn't, and I'm like, he had to see me. I'm ahead of him. You know, it'd be different if
your voice even. You're still now.
Yeah, it'd be different if I was in his blind spot. Then I'm like, okay, but no, I'm not in his blind spot. He's in my blind spot, and just coming out of nowhere. And just good thing I had good reflexes. But it's like. Some choice words came. Some choice words came out of my mouth at that moment. Like,
but you see how appropriate anger is.
Yeah.
Right? What it really is, anger is only a result that something matters to you. And in this case, your life. So when it arrives, it's never wrong to be angry.
Right.
Ever. It's arrived because something matters. It's just that people take that anger and they put it out towards whoever triggered it open. And that's where the mistake of the opportunity or the invitation might be, where instead of looking at it as, them over there did something, you know, it's like settling in with, okay, wow, anger is here, and daring to breathe and relax the body open and let the energy of anger that's already here fill and move itself however it wants to. And it's like what you said earlier about, you know, you understood after how oneness is and how God or Goddess, the universe is with us in every moment, that we can't move away from that.
Exactly.
But that happened after, right? And it's the same thing as when anger, whatever it is that shows up in the moment, the real reason of how it matters, I mean, that was an easy one, how it mattered to you. But there are often all sorts of gifts along the way as we sit down with an energy like anger, where we meet ourselves in the way we are and how we learn to cope as children that we can't know before we meet these energies.
Okay.
Right? Because they unfurl themselves and they express and show themselves to us. And in that way, it's just wonderful that they were ever held so we could find them, because as they unfurl, we open up the box of the gift of the present. And then it can show us its interior play and what consciousness was holding this for us for, and receive that gift.
Right. So true.
And then the understanding after. Right?
Yes.
The understanding always comes after, and that's why it's scary, because it's facing the unknown. Because we don't know why the anger's there, what consciousness is attempting to show us until it's been shown.
Right. So, and I also, I think of everyone that I come in contact with, so as a mirror, so reflecting parts of me back to me. So because the outer world is the illusion, and it's a hall of mirrors. It's a reflection, and everything is coming from within me. So I know that came to me through growth. Which I don't.
And
some
exploring
people.
it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, from exploring it yourself to see that whatever's exaggerated on the outside, whatever you can point to and say they are this, they are that, is actually has to have some sort of especially if you react to it. And now that's a perfect lead-in to Mr. Trump. Is it all right if we talk about this?
Yes.
I mean, what a wonderful opportunity. I see Mr. Trump as a wonderful opportunity. He does irritate and bug people. He's either put up as a hero by some people or put up as the baddest bad, as far as examples of being human, right? And the opportunity is each person could see and just admit to themselves, there's something that's disturbed inside even with the thought of Trump.
Yeah.
Is there any finger pointing towards him that you can say, he is, a bad person about women. He's got, there's all these things that you can he's totally exposed himself.
Right.
It's amazing for a politician, really.
Right.
So there's lots there that he's triggering alive for people. Even if it's a feeling of helplessness because who to vote for, who's our country going to? Right? There could be whatever that is. It's like the mind is handy to say, okay, yes, I feel helpless in this presidential situation of who's going to be in what looks like power on the outside. And to then breathe and see how is the energy moving inside. Where is that helplessness located? If you can say, I feel helpless, then helplessness energy will be with you right in that moment.
Exactly.
And to breathe and relax the body open and feel whatever that is inside.
Right.
Because the beautiful part of doing that, not only do you for yourself release these packages of helplessness, because every human feels helpless sometimes. And it's a beautiful energy to sit down with and really feel helpless.
Exactly. Well, I always say...
Let ourselves...
I always say
because the other part of that is not only for us to feel helpless, and to because when we take the lid off of that and no longer hold ourselves away from our helplessness, and we allow that energy to have free space just to be itself, and we're there to feel it, then it releases and becomes a moving part of the energetic system of consciousness that we call a person that we are. But the other thing it does is it stops empowering Trump. Right? So it dissipates the againstness. It dissipates all the energy that he triggers alive. If people sit down with these energies inside, it actually minimizes his impact on what appears here as the world. Because it's us that are giving him the energy and saying, no, that's not okay. And we're pointing to ourselves and saying we're not okay. And that holds us, the energy inside ourselves of whatever we're feeling, captive, and that's why we feel helpless. And it holds him. It gives him more form, a more solid form to play his game out.
Yes, and I always say, when you point one finger at a person, whether it be Trump or anybody, Trump is not excluded from the oneness. Trump is a reflection of us. And if we point our finger at him, there's three fingers pointing back at us. And so when I was saying all this year that these people I would talk to that had all this energy, against Trump. I'm like, all this, your attention, you're putting so much attention, because where you put your attention is what you're giving energy to. So you are giving him energy by focusing so much of your attention on him. So you're actually
outside of yourself.
Exactly.
So it's actually costly as well, because you're expending energy into what appears to be outside of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite costly.
Mm-hmm.
And at times people do get tired, and they probably, anybody can feel that if they're concerned about anything that's going on that appears to be outside of themselves, they'll just be exhausted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Eventually.
Yes.
Because it costs energy to put our attention outside of ourselves, because it's effortless. The whole idea of Trump is happening where you are. Your thoughts about him, your reactions about him, everything is already occurring exactly where you are. We don't need to put our attention out there.
Yes.
But, in settling down with ourselves, it can get a bit messy if we go, oh, that's inside us. And so many people think of this. They think about it. What do you mean I'm like that? And they think about it instead of actually going to where the energy is rustled alive.
Mm-hmm.
Because it will be, if we care, it'll be likely that it will be rustled alive.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just how we are. And some people, it may show up, and other people might be absolutely neutral. And there's no right or wrong to this. It's just simply how it is.
Yes.
And the part that we've been given as consciousness to play out as a self in play.
Exactly. That's so true. And the illusion of that someone in the White House is also so powerful that has power over us when we are all powerful. We have to
totally
own our power.
The authority of the heart. I mean, people go and they say, "Okay, that sounds so touchy-feely," and it's not. It's so intelligent. And all I can do is invite people to that. I mean, if love wants your attention, it'll keep on repeating some aspect of your life, and it will never ever abandon you. If there's any kind of challenge that's going on in people's lives, that's actually love attempting a new look at the play of the energies and to explore them for yourself. And that's what I do. Is as far as if there's a play of consciousness, as Canela, that's what I do. Is I support people to open to themselves as an energy system. And because I've done it so extensively with myself and with thousands of people over the years, because I worked with people with Reiki, right? That was my play for pay for, the kids were young and I was a single mom and all of that. And that's how I learned so much about the different energies and how, it's not just my own regret that I've opened to. I've supported other people to open to how they feel regret, and we find the same thing, the same results 100% of the time. Every bit's always got its feet in love. And it's always the person themselves that finds it, right? And so that, it's like this book that is right here, right now, meditation.
Right.
That's what it's about. It's these different 1 or 2 page meditation that looks at life like there's one called Whose Power Is It? So looking at, say, somebody's irritating you, somebody that appears in your mind at night, and they're just a bother, and everybody has those kinds of people in their lives,
right?
Where you find that all your thoughts are going to them, and if only they'd be different, and la 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 la, right?
Yes.
Well, there's in the book, there's this one exercise, and it's called Whose Power Is It? To look at, what you're giving your attention to, and to bring your attention home. It's already home with you, but
Right.
extending it out there and then let whatever it is that aspect of love that shows up as this irritating other, whatever that triggers alive, to instead of staying up with what the mind goes on and repeats, to let yourself come into the system and see what's going on. Is there any place in the body that the energy that feels held or stuck or even numb?
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And breathe. Breathing is prana. It's the life.
Yeah.
Right. It happens naturally too. We don't have to think about breathing. It's given.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But we can include breathing when we're doing this kind of exploration, because it helps to bring us right here, because we're saying, okay, breathing, and we can feel that we're breathing. And if we're feeling ourselves breathing, we are being present with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
First off,
that's
right?
that's how I bring myself present. If I feel myself, drifting, out of the present moment, I bring myself back by deep breathing, doing deep breathing exercises.
And I would even call that, how I hear you say that is, consciousness imagines itself to be drifting.
Mm-hmm.
And then it found itself and goes, oh, breathe. And then it gets even more of itself because it's become totally present. It's like, it's just so beautiful. I mean, it's this world that I see, or consciousness as me, whatever, right? I can't even, I don't even like to try and use all the words. My sons aren't really my sons. They're these incredible, play of consciousness that came into the being as my sons.
Right.
Instead, I call them my sons.
Right.
But there's a lot to that. Anyway, this book is got all sorts of exercises in exploring yourself as energy, and they're very practical human things, like watching TV. Instead of having attention out there on that screen, bring it, bring it in where you are, and people will find that the whole room comes in, man. Right?
Yes.
And it's not wrong that your attention is out there. That's already happened. You didn't do it, so how in the world could it be wrong? It's just you're finding it happening like this, and instead of having your efforting alive that seems to put attention out there on the things outside of yourself,
right?
It's just relaxing that, and instantly you're here with yourself as this play, and then it includes the TV, it includes the room, it includes the sounds, it includes every bit of the universe.
Exactly.
Right here.
Yes. And I think that's also what I meant about the including, because we want to try to sometimes exclude the ego, quote unquote ego, but include it, and embrace it. Whatever we feel we're trying to
put
push
it on
away.
Your favorite bookshelf.
Yes. Whatever we're trying to push away, it wants us to embrace it. It wants us to love it. That's what it wants to transform it, is to love it. One of my favorite...
I guess I don't like using that word because there just isn't one. There isn't one. Nobody has one. It's just a way of looking at the way that the personality shows up and how we, traipse back and forth over that until we it's a wonderful pathway that shows us who we are, the flavor of this one. Because the humanness is not going to go away. Guaranteed. Thankfully.
And one of my favorite children's book is The Little Soul in the Sun by Neil Donald Walsh, which pretty much shows us that those people, you were saying the people that keep you up at night, that you're laying and you're thinking and you're giving all your energy to.
I would say, the people that we keep ourselves awake with at night.
Right.
Because I would say them keeping us awake, they have no idea what's going on.
Right.
They're probably
yes. we are keeping ourselves awake with them on our mind, and like you said, saying why couldn't they be different or things of that nature. Those people, when I read that book and I read it to my grandson, it's telling me and showing me those are the people that I ask to come to do what they're doing. I ask these people to irritate me, to help awakened me to who I truly am. So I months ago, maybe over a year ago, I wrote a list. And actually, some thank you notes I actually sent. I wrote a list of all the people that I could think of that really got my goat through my lifetime. A whole list.
Yep.
Most of them were still living, and I actually sent these people thank you cards. And pretty much the thank you card just basically said, "Thank you for being you."
Yeah.
Just that simple. Just thank you for being you, because I understand now. I didn't say this in the note, but I understand now that they actually, anytime a person really is getting to you, that person, you actually ask that person to do that in a soul agreement before you came into this incarnation.
Well, how else would love get your attention?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because there's all these, it's not the same. It's not quite as direct to somebody being irritating as it is somebody being loving over there. There's nice moments, but even that just kind of, falls away. The next moment arrives, and right?
Right.
But those irritating ones, I mean, there's really no way around it. They're, wonderfully insistent.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where love won't abandon us, right? And it might even be a scenario of, I'm stuck in this relating, that traps me, or it limits me because I'm not allowed to do this or that, or I didn't have the right parents, or, all that stuff. And then,
all those
ground note,
Mm-hmm.
and and what you're saying too. I mean, I wondered whether or not you'd sent a thank you card to yourself because you're the one that invited them to irritate you.
Mm-hmm.
So you could find these wonderful, because it's like that the oyster with the sand, right? The irritation makes a pearl, and the pearl's the gift, the treasure for us.
Yes.
That it's like that these.
Yes. I say these people are our greatest teachers. The
ones look at Trump. I mean, so there you go.
He's one of our greatest teachers.
Or Hillary, because and I'll say Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton because I was calling her by her first name and Trump just Trump, but it's such a perfect name.
So true. So true. Mhm. Yes. This is a very interesting election coming up. And I believe all things are possible. So I still say Bernie's going to win.
Well, he's already won in our hearts, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a nice thing. And and the thing is that a lot of the, the stuff that was hidden before is now, all over the world. It has been rising up and is seen, and these Wikipedia, these leaks and all this stuff, and how information has been, privacy hasn't been really real for a long time. And
exactly. Yes.
We're finding out about it, but we've been living with it. Just we didn't know about it, right?
Exactly.
It's the same as the inner process, exactly. And we don't know about these until we turn around and look inside and sit down with ourselves and whatever it is that's going on,
Yes, like Nick was saying last week, self-inquiry. That is, I mean, it's just, it's so, for me, it's so obvious that's where everything begins, within. And that's where everyone, and I think it might seem scary to some, but I think when people actually start doing that self-inquiry and going within and actually discovering, ask for what is it about this person that is irritating me? Why am I irritated by this person? Because like you said, the person's sleeping.
Thinking about it. Right.
Yeah, that person's not thinking about it. That person's living their life and not even thinking, and you're all huffy and puffy and all. So it's not in them, it's in you.
Yeah. Yes.
And
so,
so,
but not to think. I just wanted to respond to that one word, why. Because if a person can get a hold of that, and then the mind kind of circles in and around itself on why am I irritated? I shouldn't be irritated, and yet you are, and la la la, right? Instead, it's like, okay, go right to, if we can say, oh, I feel irritated, then we can go right to, where is the energy of irritation actually occurring right now in this system, in what appears here as a body? It could be anywhere. It could be in the head, the neck, anywhere at all.
Exactly.
But it'll show up in the moment when we look. It's like, and I know about it. It can be, scary to open up to these energies. But the beautiful part is that they're already in you. You're already dealing with them. All you're doing is opening up to meet what's already here. So, it's remembering that can be very, very supportive. And, I'm offering these retreats in, actually, I know that most people listening right now are in the United States and Canada, or but I will be in London. I'll be in London and Brighton and Dublin.
Well, no, this podcast is global. I get emails from I get emails from all over the world. So yes, this will be listened to globally. So please share what's coming up for you.
Yeah, well, I'll be in. I'm actually leaving next Wednesday, so it's happening fairly quickly. To Gatwick in London there, and we'll be offering a weekend in London, a weekend in Brighton, and an evening in Dublin, and then a 5-day retreat in a castle in Ireland, in Tipperary.
Oh, exciting! Yes,
please, and so
share your website link so everyone can find you.
Okay, it's CanelaMichelle.com.
Okay.
So, I think everybody had to have the link to find us and come. So the spelling is there, CanelaMichelle.com.
Right. And I do have it
for the book. And,
yes, and it is on my page. Yes, so so everybody can find you. Yes, and this show, the thing I love about internet radio and podcasting, it is global. So no matter when they listen, they can listen all over the world. Now, if they listen after next Wednesday, they might miss you in the UK.
I put the word out and invited some people, and I'll put it out on Satsang England and Satsang Ireland so that people can listen to it there. And,
amazing.
And, I offer these retreats where I get invited. I didn't have any idea that I would be offering a 5-day retreat in a castle in Ireland. I'm tickled pink about it. I mean, I just love it's a beautiful castle. It really looks like a castle and has these beautiful fireplace, so it's going to be warm and cozy and very deep.
Goodness.
We can all fall in with love together. And so
that is amazing. I will be there in spirit.
Okay, definitely. You'll be there in my heart.
I will definitely be there in spirit. This is so wonderful. And yes, we've had such a lovely time. And I know we've gone over an hour, but who cares? Time is an illusion, and we're in the here and now, and we're having a wonderful time together.
It does. It feels wonderful. Feels very, very wonderful.
Thank you so much. I am so honored, and hopefully, when will you be in the States?
Well, I was just there at the SAND conference. There is talk of being with Open Circle in March. I do head down to Mexico. We have a place down there. I live partly down there, so I'll be in Manzanillo, Mexico, and sometimes there's groups that happen there. Other than that, as far as a planned happening that is actually committed to is on this little island where I live on Bowen Island next August. There will be a 5-day retreat then. So
wonderful. And how about next year for Sands? Because I one year I definitely want to get to Sands in San Francisco. San Francisco.
Well, the funny thing is, it's not happening where it's been happening. That was last year, just a week and whatever. When I was just there, it's moving to Joshua Tree in the desert. which will be very wonderful. There is going to be camping available. It'll be more earthy, more more natural, which feels really good to me. And I have I don't know absolutely for sure because I've been, I'm going to Europe next week.
Right.
There's enough details at play right now. But I do intend to go next year, and that would be so cool if you came. Wouldn't that be just wonderful?
That would be wonderful to meet you at
and everybody,
next year.
If you guys ever do, if you do come to San next year too, to come and say, hey, I heard you, and here I am.
Yes, that would be
so
amazing. Cool. That's definitely on my wish list to do for 2017.
It's a wonderful experience.
Yes.
It is so amazing.
Yes, beautiful. Well, thank you so much. This has been so wonderful, this whole time that we've shared, and just in the now.
It's been wonderful to meet you.
Yes.
Spend these moments like playing, it's a tantra of its own kind. You say something and it sparks something in me, and then I share something, and that's that infinity symbol between us.
Yes. So true. So true.
Together we deepen. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we will meet in this reality. It's some now moment.
In person, that'd be cool.
Yes, in person, in some now moment. Well, thank you so much. And you enjoy the week and enjoy your weekend. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel. You're welcome.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.